Hey guys, good morning, good
Hey,
morning.
everybody.
All right, let's get your face down. Okay, perfect. How are you doing, Phil?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I got sleep again.
Wow, it's
Two on
amazing.
two.
I just finally got myself a Pixel Watch upgraded from the cheap watch I had before, so it would give me an accurate reading on
Mm-hmm.
my sleep rather
It's
than the 20 something dollar watch that just told me you slept great. You didn't get up at all last night. You didn't wake up. I'm like, I literally got out of bed in the middle of the night and you didn't notice. Where this thing notices if I like move slightly.
mm-hmm.
It's great.
Right. Um, like that's why I do my best to make sure my Apple Watch is charged enough so while I sleep so it can track my sleeping.
Yeah, Google even tells you they're like, make sure you have at least like 30% charge before you go to sleep or something like that. Otherwise,
Yeah.
if it dies in the middle of the night, you get nothing. It's like,
Yeah, you're
and it won't
definitely
wake you up either.
no, it will not. Like it also tells you charge before going to bed
Yeah, yeah.
too. So it's like,
So as a private teacher, what's great is I just plug it in while I'm teaching, so I don't need
mm,
it on while I'm teaching.
well, mine is charging.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
See,
there
there you
you go.
go. Perfect.
Yep.
If you're on a video call or anything, what do you need to watch for? You
It's
know what time it is.
true. But then you want to track your heartbeat sometimes depending on the meeting.
That's true. You never know. Is important.
Yeah.
But they only have 24-hour batteries, so you know what you can do. Well, they say they have more, they don't.
Debatable. It depends like how many programs you
Yeah.
actually use on your phone.
Yeah,
So
it does.
yeah,
I
it can make a
considered
total
getting a
difference.
Garmin, another Garmin. I used to have a Garmin, but then it did break after using it like heavily for years. Garmin's cost more than Apple and Google watches, but they also do more and they have like 10-day batteries.
I think my husband owns a Garmin.
Yeah, I loved my Garmin watch, but then I was just like the price 300 versus like 450. I'm like, no. Like that
Yeah.
$150, it'll still track my sleep. I can plug it in every day, so it's not a big deal.
Mhm.
It's because they use proprietary software. They're not using Android or iOS, so
Makes
that's what they
sense.
say, why they say it lasts longer.
Huh.
It's
Eh,
pretty it was good while it lasted. But yeah, the GPS on Google and Apple are just as good as Garmin now.
that's good. Um okay, sorry, I'm just fixing the some settings on our YouTube thing.
Okie dokie.
So, all right, so what are we talking about today, Phil?
Everybody's favorite topic in the whole world, taxes. And then we should all move to like, I don't know, somewhere, somewhere in Central America.
I don't think they're gonna like us right now. Anywho, okay, I'm
Oh,
so
people
excited.
in Central America always like Americans. I don't care what any news source tell you. They love us because we have money. They always love us.
True. Okay, so yes, we today we are gonna be talking about taxes specifically for tutors that work on tutoring platforms like LessonFace, SuperProf, Wizened, and other online tutoring platforms.
Hmm.
And honestly, today's episode is going to be a must because we want to one keep most of our profits I would assume legally
Yeah.
while giving them, the IRS our income and pay what we
Yeah.
owe. And and I promise you guys we're going to try to make this as engaging, as entertaining as possible. But one thing that we can guarantee you is that you're going to get a lot of important information, especially if you guys are new in tutoring, regardless of your
Hmm.
experience. And one thing that you should know, and this is the biggest thing, is that whenever you join a tutoring platform, you are, according to that platform, what's called an independent contractor.
Yeah.
And Phil, what in the world does that mean?
That means that you don't work for them and they do not and cannot is an important part of this, withhold taxes. It is illegal for them to withhold taxes because you don't work for them.
Yeah.
um, which means a lot. Because you're an independent contractor, you actually pay a higher percentage rate than everyone else in taxes. Now, the big gasp on that is like, but that's not fair. You're right. But we also will talk about how we get other things in lieu of that that we'll talk about later.
Mm-hmm.
So that's important to know. And the biggest reason that's important to know is that you need to pay quarterly taxes,
Or yearly taxes.
or if you do not, you will owe a penalty. Not might, you will owe a penalty. So you will actually owe more taxes if you don't pay. And if you don't pay enough, you will still owe more. You have to make sure you pay enough. Now, some websites will say you should pay upwards of 25% of your taxable income like right away, like during the year. I think that's a little overboard for the same reason that, we'll talk about later. You do have tax
Yeah.
deductions.
And
So,
with that said,
yeah.
everything that we're going to be talking about is going to be a reference to the federal taxes.
Yeah.
As many of you guys know, we still have to pay state taxes, and it is very important to know the basic laws within your state,
Yeah.
tax laws in your state for independent contractors. Luckily,
Unless,
California
yeah. Yeah.
is is one of the better states out there that actually has, in comparison, still not great, but in comparison, one of the better tax laws for independent contractors.
Uh, Now, I will say that if you live in one of the 9 states that do not have income tax, Alaska, New Hampshire, Texas, I'm looking at it right now, Florida, South Dakota, Washington, Wyoming, Tennessee, and Nevada, you do not have income tax at all. You do not have to report it. You do not have to pay it. The government doesn't actually care if you even make money or how much, whether it's $100 or $100 billion. They do not care in those states.
Maybe we should move to
So, no,
Washington.
yeah. Which always surprises me. Washington is one of the ones that surprises me on the list. It's Washington and Nevada both kind of. And actually, no, Nevada doesn't surprise me. They have so much income from outside of the state. Why am I surprised by that one? No,
Yeah.
so much income. I mean, it's great.
So again, guys, if you're brand new, this is your first tax year as an online tutor or an in-person tutor, and you're using a platform, the three takeaways here that we just discussed is that you're not an employee to that platform.
Hmm.
You're an independent contractor. So followed by independent contractor tax laws. Two, these, as Phil pointed out clearly, these platforms don't withhold taxes for you. They can't withhold taxes for you. And
Hmm.
you are responsible for tracking your own income and expenses. Of course, depending on where you live, some might have to do more than others.
Yeah. And I have like a kind of a go-to thing that I do. My wife had like suggested this to me, and what I do is so for business expenses, since I'm sole proprietor, I am not an LLC or an S corp. I've done that in the past with another business, but I don't do that here. I don't really have to, and I have no need to. So because I don't, I have an old credit card of mine that if I have a business expense, everything that I buy for my business, I use it. Now it's a personal credit card. You do not have to have a business credit card. You to be allowed to deduct things from your taxes. You just have to buy something for your business. It doesn't have to be the business buying it. I know that for a fact because I do this all the time. Trust me, Louisa. I trust me. You do not have to have an LLC or an S corp. Now,
No, you
in
don't, but
California,
with a
it is
card,
possible
yes.
you do, but I don't believe you do. So you can still deduct. But one of the reasons I use that one personal credit card is the only thing I use that for is for my business. So it helps me to keep track of it. It's not for my taxes. It's so that it helps me to keep track and go, okay, everything I bought on this credit card this year was deductible stuff. So it helps me to keep track and keep order on things. That's kind of the reason I do that.
Yeah, it's like I have a business card because it just helps me um to separate things too. And also, if you
Hmm.
have a business card, there are companies out there that will give you a better rate. There are a bunch of credit card deals out there. You can get cash back, like all these fancy things.
Yeah.
And but it's easier to track. With that said, you can use like platforms such as QuickBooks. For
You
some,
can.
you might
Yeah,
know
if you
as
do.
into it,
Yeah. You can,
or
yeah.
other or Excel sheets too. Just Google Sheets, so you don't have to spend like $35
Yeah.
a month.
Yeah, I was gonna say QuickBooks, if you're just like a sole proprietor LLC that's just tutoring and you're not doing any other businesses, QuickBooks is a little like much and it's a little hard to get used to. I mean, I've used it in the past. I used to use it with another business that I had and um it did so much more than was necessary. But and you can get QuickBooks somewhat cheap if you just say like buy when you're the first and it's like the first time you've bought it and you go onto Amazon. If you have employees, it will do payroll if you want it to. They have a
Mm-hmm.
payroll option and it's actually pretty
Yeah,
good.
they have services based on, if just like everything else that we talk about, like whatever
Hmm.
product, um, you know, just go to just check out software like QuickBooks to see if that's something that is going to be relevant for you, your needs, your current
Yeah.
needs, not
Yeah.
wants or what you expect. When what you expect actually happens, then you can always upgrade to something a little bit more advanced. But yeah, if you're just starting, just Excel is going to be your best friend. But categorize everything. And we're going to talk about deductions and how to do that in just a moment. But there are things that will help you.
Yeah. 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 And remember, if you have a credit card, this kind of goes a little bit into deductions. Like if you're using one credit card for that business, and let's say you don't pay it off in the month and you owe a percentage
Mm-hmm.
for it. That is deductible. That percentage that is added is also deductible, just like the price of the product you're buying, whatever that
Yeah.
percentage is.
So
So,
now let's talk about forms, Phil.
well, the forms,
So many
you know
questions.
what? I'm just going to be honest. I use TurboTax. It does all the work for me.
I use
So here's the
TurboTax
nice
too.
thing. The thing about forms is they are it's good to know what some of them are. Like Schedule C is the main one for businesses to know to use. If you're a sole proprietor, is you have to fill out a Schedule C. TurboTax and H&R Block will do that for you, or your accountant will do that for you.
Yeah.
It's one page. It's actually pretty simple, for the most part, and it has all your deductions and everything on there. So it has all your it's that's the main like non-personal form. Um, as far as others, it's been a while since I've used any of the other forms, since I haven't had like an LLC in like
Okay.
I don't
Well,
know,
I got you
15
covered there,
years.
Phil.
Okay.
Um,
It was a lot harder. It was a lot more work, I'll tell you that, with an LLC.
so when I had my tutoring business, and just like when with TL, um, if we are hiring independent contractors, we send the tutor a 1099 NEC form. And you only get that if you earn $600 or more. And these forms are usually and should be sent in January. And this form, like the actual company has to report it to the IRS.
Hmm.
And
Oh,
then
this
from
is a
there, and
question for you.
again,
I have a question for you for after all this. That's related. But wait,
okay,
keep
yeah,
talking.
okay,
Sorry, I
sure.
just thought of something.
um, and again, they don't deduct or withhold like money, whether it be like the Social Security, that thing. They don't take it out. It's your job to, and things like TurboTax or H&R Block will help guide you. And that's going to be based on your income based on that 1099 form. Now, there is a TurboTax for independent contractors specifically, which is fantastic. And
Mhm.
then there's a Schedule C. It's shoot. I just saw this one. Form 1040.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So
That's the
this
main
is,
form, 1040. Yeah.
yeah, the 1040 form. This is where you report self-employment income and expenses.
Hmm.
And then usually following that is another 1040 form. This is known as Schedule SE. This form is also for, well, this is more for self employment tax. So, Schedule C, that's where you report your self
Hmm.
employment income and expenses. Then you have another 1040 form, which is a Schedule SE, and where that form is for the self employment tax, which covers the Social Security, Medicare, etc.
Hmm.
Now, here's something that is important. As I mentioned, so if you are working with a tutoring platform, not all platforms, although they should, not all platforms provide a 1099, especially if you made less than $600
Yeah,
on a
because they don't
platform.
have to. Ooh, so here goes my question.
Oh, yes.
Rosita, I already know the answer. It's a trick question for anyone listening. If they don't give you a 1099, does that mean I don't owe taxes on that money?
Oh, no, yes, you do.
Darn.
You, the
Does that mean I
IRS,
can just work for 20 different companies, make $500 through each of them, and I don't owe any taxes?
no, no,
That's
no,
never the case.
no, no,
Never the case.
no.
Which, oh, there is, so that as well as, so let's say you also just teach people yourself and you get paid through Stripe or Venmo or PayPal, and you're like, haha, I got around it. I'm
No.
using Venmo. Well, if you made more than $5,000, you know what you're going to get? You're going to get a 1099K. And
Mm-hmm.
so will the government. So don't think you can just hide that and pretend it didn't get to you. Now, you can deduct a lot of that stuff. You just have to remember like what you got, I mean, you just know how you used that money. How much of that money was gifts from somebody. Now with Venmo, it's a little harder because I don't know how the government can even prove that you actually got income and it wasn't just gifts, except for the fact that like 30 people were paying you weekly, you know.
Right. There is a
PayPal and
way.
and Stripe are a little easier. You just need to pay it.
Yeah. Well, there are. I'm gonna shush. Actually,
No, I mean, and you should. You should make sure that you are only paying the government what is owed to them.
no, I was gonna say that there
Seriously.
are indeed loopholes that actually people
Hmm.
you know people have taught me on, but if you
Oh
have
yeah.
like say a Venmo business or a PayPal business account, please be sure that you are going to get a form from that. If
Oh, you don't
you
even have to have a business anymore. If it's over $5,000 for this year, 2,500 next year, you will get a form no matter what and no matter who you are. And even if let's say that somebody Venmoed you a $10,000 gift, you're gonna get a 1099K. You have to report it, but then you just say it was a gift and you don't owe any taxes on it
Mm-hmm.
because you can't be taxed on gift money ever.
Yeah.
States are not allowed to do it. Well, no, some states actually can. States can, most states don't. The federal government does not
Well,
tax
usually
gifts.
you always have to report something that's like over like 10,000 or something like if I'm not
Not for
mistaken.
gifts.
No, no, you
Gifts you
don't
don't
get
have to
taxed
report at
on the
all.
gifts. You just still have to
Yeah.
report it.
Yeah. Well, yes, and it depends.
Yeah.
Sort you do. So you do have to report it. And if it, let's say, so here's a little weird tax thing. So I just know from having like inheritance gifts and things. So in the US, I can't remember what the number is this year. So I'm gonna make up a number. Let's say $35,000.
Don't be
I don't
conceited.
remember I'd have to look it up. I don't remember the number. I don't know why I'm not remembering it. That one person is allowed to gift another person without it being taxed. Now, here's the thing. You as the gift receiver is not the person who actually gets taxed. The person who gifted you gets taxed.
The
So they
giver.
can gift you $1 billion and you owe this much tax to the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how much. Now, they're going to get hit on their. So, what happens is they have a max amount of income they're allowed to gift over the maximum allowed. Now, there's, of course, loopholes. Like if your parents want to gift you money and they want to gift you $50,000, one of them gifts you 25,000, then the other one gifts you 25,000. It does work that way. I've, there's simple ways around it. That's for them, not for you. It doesn't matter to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, gifting, you do have to, you're supposed to
You are the
report it. It doesn't
recipient.
really matter.
Mm-hmm.
But I generally like little bits of gifts. I don't report that stuff for the most part. It's gifts. They can't tax it anyway, so I don't worry about it.
Yeah. With that said, the IRS does
Yeah.
expect you to report all income, even if it's just
Yeah.
a few $100s.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you made $300, $300 to $400 between 20 different companies and you don't get any 1099s, please report that stuff.
Mm.
Um, because it can be a red flag. And it doesn't mean you're going to be audited. You might get lucky. A lot of people do get lucky and never get audited, just like jury duty, And now, one thing about auditing, if you use H&R Block software or TurboTax software, when you're done, it gives you an estimate of how likely it thinks you are to be audited based on your tax returns, which is actually really nice. And we use TurboTax. So for like, it used to be 60. I'm hoping it's still $60. For an additional $60, they will guarantee you so that if you are audited, they will back you up and pay for all like any, not pay for the extra taxes if you were wrong. I mean, of course, you owe those taxes, but they will provide the assistance needed by a tax preparer to help you get through that audit
Yeah. And it's
for that
honestly
for
worth
that
it.
very small fee because if you have to pay someone it's going to be a lot more than $60.
Yeah. Yeah. Um yeah. Yeah, it's definitely
Yeah. And
it's better it's better to be safe than sorry. Even though if your books are
yeah.
clean, um it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now for the
And I'm learning like the hard way, like with my PayPal. I'm just like, you know what? I did some stupid decisions like buying some personal stuff through my PayPal, which I need to like sift through it and think, okay, which of these things that I purchased were business and which were personal? Because I can deduct the business ones, but I can't deduct the personal ones. And I'm like, but I only have one PayPal account. I'm like, that was just so I've learned to just stop paying for personal things through PayPal so next year I don't have to deal with that. Because I use PayPal for most of my payments, by the way, everyone. It's just because I always have. Not that it's better or worse than Stripe. They're
Yeah,
similar.
actually I have been switching from like using from Venmo to from Venmo and PayPal to actually for those that have iPhones, Apple Pay.
Yeah, so I
because
know Rosita's probably going to tell you why that's a good way to do it is Apple Pay, Google Pay, Zelle, and Venmo. You don't, there's no percentages. So you get the amount of money that you're given,
mhm.
right? I think with Apple Pay you do, or
With
maybe.
with Apple Pay you don't
Oh,
they don't take out any
suddenly I
percentages
don't hear.
and stuff like that for now. But
Hold
with
on one second.
Venmo,
My,
there
oh, and
has
now it's back.
been
That's fair.
instances where they have taken out a percentage from mine, even though I don't have a business one. But
Oh,
it can
okay.
recognize, um, reoccurring payments. And okay, so let's say I charged $60 for an hour Japanese lesson, right? And they will take like $1.53.
Mm,
And then I'll get the rest.
yeah,
So Venmo
yeah.
can recognize, but Zelle and Apple Pay and Google Pay. I was gonna say Goggle Pay, Google Pay. Um, they
Yeah.
haven't been doing that as of late.
Yeah.
So that's
And
one way
Zelle
to
is not
save.
ever going to do that because Zelle is a bank to bank transfer.
Yeah,
So they would just go out of business the instant they started charging a percentage because nobody's going to do that.
yeah,
They're just going to use Cash App, which is still free or something, or just personal Venmo, which I've used Cash App. I've had some students. I mean, of course, they still have to like, actually, I've only done it like a few times in the past for very small amounts. I mean, I don't like to do that because I like to keep better track of things.
yeah. I'm not even though I also have Cash App, but I rarely use it. I only
Yeah.
used it with like two people, which was one my godfather and two you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it is. It's like I had a student a while ago that just wanted to use Cash App for it, and I was fine. So
Yeah,
it's a cool little program. It's free. You can transfer money to and from people just like with anything else. They are not a real bank. So one thing is if you use something like Cash App or Venmo, and they're like, why don't you have a savings account with us? My answer is you're not a real bank. And everything online says it's less safe to use a savings account that's not a real bank. So
yeah,
I'm just being extra safe there. Now,
yeah.
I
But
wanted to say one thing about those schedules. Now, for anyone saying you said you'd make this fun, and why do I have to fulfill out a schedule C? Well, you don't actually. You just have to answer the questions and fill out the information on TurboTax
yeah,
but now I will say
they
this.
do that for you.
It's not easy. Just be like, oh, goody. It's just going to ask me a bunch of fun questions and I'll be done in 10 minutes. No, it's going to ask
Nope.
you a bunch of things that you don't know the answer to and you'll be done in weeks.
Yeah.
That's how much harder it is than you might think. It is not going to be easy.
With that said, and that's only when you're not too kind of prepared. If you are
Yeah.
prepared, then
Take
it'll be
hours.
quicker. Yeah.
And it'll take hours or days.
More like
Now it
days,
does still take a
depending.
while.
It can only take a little bit at a time.
Well, there's certain things like this room that I am in right now. I only use this for work.
Yes.
It's a part of my house. So
Deductions.
another tax
Yeah.
deduction. Now, the thing about using this is why you have to use a software program or an accountant. Because if you try to do this by hand, you're not going to do it right. Period. I'm just going to be honest. You will not do it right. Don't use a free program. You're going to get screwed if you use a free program. Totally screwed. Pay the little bit it costs for TurboTax or H&R Block.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I don't even remember what they cost this year. I bought one. I already bought TurboTax, but I don't remember. They're not that expensive. They're under $100,
Yeah.
so very useful. It will lead you through that and say, what's the size of the room? What is the cost of this? What's the cost of this? What's the cost of this? It will actually even allow you to deduct some of your utilities because you're using the room. So there's a lot of things that get deducted, and this could go to your state taxes as well if you owe state taxes,
Yeah.
which is useful.
And this and you're bringing up a good point because this is actually where things get good because as we're
Mhm.
talking about taking schedule DLC and 25% of income and blah blah blah, you guys are probably thinking, "Oh, I'm going to owe so much in traffic taxes." One day I'll be able to speak properly. But you don't have to overpay if you
Hmm.
take advantage of tax deductions. And as Phil mentioned, the space in your house that is meant for work up to a certain percentage. I forgot what the maximum space you
Yeah,
can
you can't say your
deduct.
whole house is your workspace because you
Yeah.
live there.
But it is tax deductible.
Yeah, it
So
is.
as a self-employed tutor, you can deduct business expenses, meaning you only pay taxes on your profit, not your total income.
Yeah.
And
And
home
so there
office
are so
deductions
many
the same.
things like with that. Like I said, it'll do it for you. There are, and just knowing that even though you owe a higher tax rate, you owe a higher tax rate, but you owe a higher tax rate on your taxable income, which is why deductions are important. These
Yeah.
deductions are not just taking a little bit off. They come straight off the top. They are non-taxable. It is non-taxable money, all of the deductions, at least for federal. It depends on your state.
Yeah.
But for federal income, if you bought a $2,000 keyboard, you bought a $2,000 keyboard. So if your income was 50,000, it's now 48,000. Your taxable income.
Yeah.
That also is important for the Affordable Care Act.
Mhm.
They base your subsidy on that, on your taxable income. Now, if you call and talk to someone there, you will get a different answer every time you talk to someone because most of the people there have no idea what they're talking about. It is on your taxable income, not on your gross income. If it was on my gross income, I wouldn't have health insurance right now.
Yeah. And the main, well, actually, yes. Speaking of health insurance, like that's also deductible too if you pay.
Yeah. Your premiums are.
Your
If you go to
premiums
the
are.
doctor and pay the doctor, it is not tax deductible.
Yeah, your
Not even one
premiums
penny
might
of that
qualify
is.
for deductions.
Yeah.
So, but
So that's why
things,
it's good to do it.
yeah, but things that you can deduct is home office deduction, and this can include a percentage also of your rent, your mortgage, also your utilities,
Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
internet, and software. So if you guys you paid software like Zoom or Canva or Notion, those things too can also be deducted.
yeah,
Equipment, if you bought new equipment the past tax year, like a microphone, a webcam, or a headset for tutoring, that's considered as a business expense. Professional
yeah,
development. This is online courses, books, workshops that improve your educational and or business skills are
yeah.
also deductible. Office
If you go
supplies.
to lunch with a colleague and talk about it, every penny that you pay there is deductible on your
Yeah.
taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes alcohol for those of you old enough.
That one varies.
Depends on your state.
Yeah,
I don't
that
know
one
state
varies.
taxes anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, it does. It is now. I mean, should you be getting drunk at a business meeting? No, they may not. They may like wonder about that. No, but it is deductible. Your lunch or your dinner, it's deductible. Doesn't matter how much it cost.
Yeah.
It's deductible. That's on you to, say, I'm gonna buy a $500 lunch just because it's deductible. Well, that's not kind of silly, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Just
Um,
invite me though first.
invite both of us, please. And then
Yeah.
okay, and then we have office supplies, so printer, ink. Oh, actually, that reminds me, I need to send my boss my invoice for using my own printer ink. Thanks. I'm glad that. Okay, never mind. Um,
Yeah.
printer ink, pens, planners, those are all tax write-offs too. Well, a
Yeah.
percentage of it. If you guys travel, if you tutor in person or attend, say, education conferences, or you're tutoring at a tutoring business, like what's it called, Brain Academy or something like that, you can
Hmm.
deduct your travel expenses. That includes
Yeah.
gas, maintenance of the car, and things like that. So this is why I always encourage having like a form of a business card or a dedicated card for your business. So
Hmm.
if you're using your vehicle to go to a work related event, like work itself, or
But as an independent
a
contractor,
conference.
by the way, if you are paid as an employee by that company, you cannot deduct one penny from travel.
Yeah, this is for
There are
specifically.
ways you can, but it's complicated, more complicated than necessary.
Yeah,
You have to have more than one job with more than one company paying you to drive to different places, and it's like, yeah, by then it's like, no, don't do that.
usually for that, companies will reimburse or something like that, or give you like
Yeah,
an extra
sometimes they'll just
hour or
reimburse
something.
you. Yeah,
But
yeah, whatever
as
the tax rate
this
is.
theme is specifically for independent contractors,
Yeah.
so as an independent contractor, you can deduct your gas. You'll have to give the approximate average of how much you spend. So in California,
Oh, no,
it's about
no. Well, for federal,
two
it's mileage. It's not gas.
for mileage.
Yeah, it's
Here it's
only mileage. It's
both.
it's it's money on mileage. You get a certain number of cents per mile.
Mm-hmm.
You're not supposed to get anything on gas.
So
You're not supposed to unless California is different for their state taxes, but for
I always
federal, it's
get
only mileage.
I always get asked how much my average spending is on gas, and how much average mileage I do per month, or per, sorry, not per month, per year, if I can recall correctly.
So yeah, so right now it's if you are self-employed, it's 70 cents per mile. You're not supposed to get anything for what gas you pay for, oil changes, fixing your car, unless it is a vehicle that is only used for your business and nothing else.
Yeah.
If it's used for you personally at all, even like a 1% of your bit of you personally, then you can only deduct mileage. But 70 cents a mile is a lot. Depending on where you live. Like if you live in LA, it's probably not because it takes you like 3 hours to go a mile. But if you live
Well,
in
no, it's about
Kansas,
45 minutes, regardless of the direction you're going.
okay, say 45 minutes. But if you live like in the Midwest or Kansas, in the middle of Kansas, and you have to drive 100 miles and it only takes you like 1 hour,
Then yeah, 70
that's
miles.
different.
That would be
70
like
cents a
three
mile is a
hours. Yeah.
lot. But that's what it's supposed to be. I just know that's the IRS, the federal government, but California might be different.
Yeah. Well, federal versus state. This is why, again,
Mhm.
check with your state tax laws as well, because
Yeah.
every state is going to be different.
Yeah.
One way
Make sure to
or
get a
another.
good software that helps you if you're going to do it yourself.
Yeah. TurboTax. Seriously,
Yeah.
the TurboTax is the
We've been
number
using
one.
TurboTax. Yeah. I mean, my wife
Um.
hates it every year, but it's like it's still the best
Yeah.
of them.
And you touched on something at the beginning, Phil, about quarterly taxes.
Oh, right.
Here's a big mistake new tutors make. They forget about estimated quarterly taxes.
Or they just don't know they're supposed to do it. I wouldn't have known if my wife hadn't told me because um, I just worked for Best Buy. I went to college. I was like teaching a little bit on the side, but I was mostly just working for Best Buy. So I worked for them for Geek Squad, and I got paid a salary, and that salary was taxed. I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
I just went and you know what? I could use free stuff to pay my taxes with that because it was so simple. That was like 5 minutes of my time to pay my taxes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I wouldn't have known. I had no idea. Not there was like I didn't think to look, hey, do I need to pay taxes ahead of time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's quarterly tax due dates. There's April 15th, June 15th, September 15th, and January 15th of the following
Yeah.
year. So if you expect to owe more than $1,000 in taxes for the year, the IRS wants you to pay quarterly, not just in April.
Hmm.
So instead of waiting until tax season, and honestly, it's I know personally I like doing this is much better for me. You should make four smaller payments throughout the year to avoid penalties.
Yeah. Yeah, just do it. Even if you pay a little too much, I mean, you get used
It's
to
better
it. You'll
safe
get
than
better at
sorry.
it. Yeah. And just know that if you are single right now, I would have just had to look it up to see what the new numbers were. $14,600 is not taxed. The first $14,600. If you are married, it's double that. It's 29,200.
Yeah.
Um, then if if you are head of household, which means that you work and your spouse does not, and or you have kids as well on top of that, but only one person works, you get $21,900, which I know is a little bit. No, head of household. How does that work? No, it doesn't mean if you're married, you can still get the 29 too.
Yeah.
Like I think if you have like kids, you get that, but then you
If you
also
get
get
kids, you get
another
a
amount on top of that
subsidiary.
for kids. Yeah, it's like weird. You get more. You get different amounts.
Yeah. Depending
Um,
on the age
the,
too and all these
mhm.
things and
For
other
most of it's the single and married filing jointly one.
yeah. Which
You can file separately.
it's
Almost
not
nobody
worth
should
it.
ever do that.
Don't.
We tried that once because a tax person told us to, but she was wrong.
Yeah,
And
it's
I even talked to someone at the IRS and they told me, yeah, she was wrong. You should not have done
yeah.
that.
You end up paying a lot more.
Yeah, most of the time you
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
So quickly, international tutors and tax considerations. Um so I've had a lot of I had a lot of colleagues that are US citizens, but they live abroad. What about
Mm.
our international tutors? So I'm going to approach this in two different ways. If you live outside the US but tutor on a US based platform, your tax situation might be different. Okay?
Yeah, you owe taxes to the US government at that point.
Yes.
You don't so double taxation internationally is illegal. So both countries cannot tax you.
Mhm.
This but the
Even
same
if you're a
percentage.
resident of
Yeah.
that other country, if you're still using a US based one, you only pay taxes to the US government as that's a US company that you are partnered with and not the company
Yeah.
that you have residency in. Um with that
Now
said,
that said,
no.
it does depend, and you should make sure a tax person, you let them know all the information. And if that is your situation, I would get a real tax person. And I don't mean go to a Walmart and go into the H&R Block in there. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Go to like our CPA, go to a real person like that's
Yeah.
studied, went to school for this. They can help you to know which country do I owe taxes to.
And
Now,
make
if
sure
you
that they're
are a US
specialized on
citizen, yeah.
foreigners too. Like not
Yeah,
just any
yeah.
CPA that they actually have specialties in working with foreigners residing in other countries.
Well, and one thing interesting, I had this conversation with family, and they were swearing that like up and down that if you live outside the US and you're a citizen of the US, you have to file your taxes even if you don't owe money. And I was like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
And we found out that I was right, but it's like, should you? Yes. Do you have to? Absolutely not. If you don't owe taxes to the US government, you do not have to file taxes at all. But if you're an independent contractor, you do owe taxes. Now, that um that standard deduction does not include the Medicaid and Social Security tax. That starts at $0.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it stops at like dollar 120 something thousand, which we don't want my thoughts on that right now.
hmm And also, just kind of backtracking to international
Yep.
tutors, is
Yep.
that there are some platforms that are US based that will withhold taxes for specifically international tutors, but it's going to depend on
Oh,
where you live and in any
yeah.
tax treaties your country has with the US. And that's why, just like Phil said, finding a CPA and one that specializes in foreigners is going to be so important.
Yeah. Because most likely you're going to owe tax in the country you live in, because that's
Mm-hmm.
where you're making money.
Yeah.
But make sure you get, just make sure you know the right rules. Because I mean, when you're teaching on Zoom or a platform like Zoom, it can be it could be confusing. And you might just wonder, it's like, but I'm teaching someone that's in Texas, but I live in Spain. It's like, well, you're gonna owe taxes to Spain because you're making money in Spain. You
Mm-hmm.
didn't go to Texas. So, but you still need that person to like help you through that, just to make sure the US government knows that if you're a US citizen, you don't owe. Now, if you're a citizen of Spain, you're teaching someone in Texas, don't worry about US taxes. They don't matter to you. You don't have to file them. I teach people in lots of countries. I don't file taxes in any of those countries, and I do not care about taxes in any of those countries.
Yeah. So if you're a US based tutor or
Yeah.
have a US based educational business, if you have international clientele, you do not owe taxes to that country. You
Hmm.
only you only pay taxes for the country that you're currently residing in right here. So,
Yeah.
like both of us, we have international clientele. So, prime example, I have a couple clients in Japan and in Hong Kong. I don't owe taxes to China. I don't owe taxes to Japan.
Hmm.
I pay taxes to the US.
Yeah.
They are purchasing from abroad my services. I'm hoping that this
Exactly.
makes sense to you guys.
Yeah. And hopefully tariffs will not hit like services.
Don't jinx it, Phil.
Let's not even
Do not
let's not even
know.
go there. Don't even go there.
There's your wife.
It's like,
You
why are you
jinx
saying
it.
this out loud? You're giving them ideas. Don't give
Okay.
them ideas. No, that wouldn't happen because it's over Zoom. They're paying me directly. It's like there's really
Yeah.
no way for them to even track that stuff. It's not a thing coming here. So there is different. So anyway, I think my big thing for everyone to just know is make sure that two things that you're paying some quarterly taxes. That's one big one. Um, Kind of guesstimate how much you think you're going to make that year.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to help you for the quarterly taxes and for your subsidy for your health insurance. If you have
Yes.
ACA health insurance, you need to know. You have to guess. You do. You have to make a wild, unfortunately, sort of wild guess. How much am I going to make this year? And if you say I'm going to say my taxable income is going to be like 45 grand. So then you go into the ACA and and it asks you how much do you think your income is going to be. Now it's very like I don't know when you're in the AC in the Affordable Care Act site, it's a little bit weird. Healthcare.gov, it's not very specific, and it's hard to understand whether it's asking for taxable income, but it is what it's asking for, and the people that work there don't even know that sometimes. That's what they want. What do you think your taxable income will be? And then it will tell you what your subsidies on each of the healthcare options are. Um, if you get it wrong, you're going to owe money back. If at the end of the year you get this like client that pays you 100 grand, you will owe all of it back. Yes, absolutely. And it could be in the tens of thousands of dollars
Mm,
because the cheapest plans right now are about $1,200 a month for two people. It's about, I mean, it's half that. So for per person, $600 to $700 per person. That's the cheapest healthcare plans if you don't get a subsidy.
yeah.
And then they go up from there. So yeah, they're crazy. They're crazy expensive.
U.S. healthcare. Huh.
Yes. Yeah. The Affordable Care Act is, and I are not best friends. I'm just going to be honest. As a liberal, that's hard to say, but I'm sorry. I hate it. Hate it so
It's
much.
I mean, it's better than like other like alternatives. It's the better of the two evils
Better
that
than
the
dying. Well, no, because a
propositions.
lot of people do, unfortunately. I could go on about that, but
Yeah, but we're gonna yeah, never mind.
unfortunately, there's so many things. But do get it. I mean, it is at least there's an option. Now there's so many positives. I love the fact that say you are a type 1 diabetic and you're an independent contractor. You pay the exact same amount for healthcare that I do. Sorry, for premiums, not for healthcare. You probably pay more for healthcare than I do, but your premiums are the exact same as me. Before the Affordable Care Act, that was not a thing. Your
Mm,
premiums were sky high if you didn't have a job that helped you pay for it,
so sad.
unfortunately. So there's a lot of positives. For to all the negatives that I tout. But know that you can do that. That was the two. And then three, I forgot. Oh yeah, get a good three, pick between my suggestions, TurboTax, H&R Block, software, not the thing in the mall, or a real
Yeah,
tax person.
it's better. Yeah, or an actual CPA.
Yeah.
Yeah, CPAs will
That's the
cost
best
more,
way to do your
but if
taxes.
you're a
Yeah.
beginner, TurboTax, H&R Block, the software, it's the way to go.
Yeah. If you mostly teach, say like in people's homes, you drive to people's homes, strangely, your taxes are actually slightly easier than those of us that teach online because we have to figure out the percentage of the room and all this. Like, how big is your house? What percentage of your house is it? What's your utility cost? How much of it will be? It's like, just do it for me.
It's a lot of math,
Yeah,
but hey, it keeps our noggin working.
maybe.
All right. Well, I gotta
Yes.
head out, have class.
Yep.
So, guys, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. If there are topics that you guys want us to talk about, please let us know.